Hi guys, my name is Ademola Badmos and welcome to my YouTube channel once again. So in the previous video we've shown the journey of what we want to do, so let's get right into it so we can break it down and try to save as much time as possible. So basically we have the site here. So what we want to do is we are going to over this and we over here, then we click this. Now it is important to tell you that we are going to be using some classes. So let's do that. But before we do that, I just like to arrange this thing in form of alphabet. It's an habit of mine. So let me just quickly do that. So again from here to here. So Chrome driver preset service. So we can remove that too and put that here. So we can put that here. So we need an action change for us to be able to do this. And we also need our by class, because the way Selenium is now done, there is no longer in Selenium 3 you have methods like find element by expert, find element by CSS selector, find element by ID, but now you only have find elements. So you need to get in the by class to do that. But in order to be able to over the these elements, we need action change to do that. And when we get here, we said that we are going to scroll to the bottom and we are going to select 36. So in order to do that, we need a select class too. So we are going to do all of that. We are going to import all those classes right now, so we'll not need to import them later. And one other thing that we need to also do here is we need to start factoring in the best practices. So there's a possibility that because based on internet bandwidth and connection, it's possible for you to want to click on UDIs, right? And it takes some time to load, but your Selenium script is very fast. It might just run through the old commands since it had already done the previous command, and it will cause a false error which shouldn't have been there in the first place. So we would use wait elements to wait for it. So we are going to also import our WebDriver wait as well. And in order to use a WebDriver wait, we need an expected condition. So we are going to import how many things now? We are going to import by one. We are going to import action chains. We are going to import an expected condition. We are going to import a select, and we are going to import a WebDriver wait. Again, our by, we are going to use it to select, to identify the elements. So it's going to help us identify them. When we find the elements, we are identifying it probably by CSS selector or probably by ID. So that's what we are going to use by for. And action chains would allow us to be able to perform some real native actions like hovering over that mens tab. And also, in some cases, you can use your action chains to perform some clicks when that click is tied to a real event. So you can use your action chains to do that. While the expected condition along with the WebDriver wait would allow us to be able to intuitively wait on our web pages. And finally, select would allow us to interact with a select tag. So when you have a drop down that is created inside the select tag, you use a select key to do that. So let us import quickly. So we say from Selenium WebDriver to common. We import action chains. I like it alphabetically. So action chains is imported. And by Selenium, let's just copy this. So we'll be fast. So let's copy from here till here. So from common, inside common, we have by. So we'll import by. Now that has been imported, so the next thing we need is we need expected conditions. So we say from Selenium .webdriver .support, we would import the expected conditions. It's a long sentence, so we would create an alias for it like we did here. So we create an alias, so we can call it EC. So anywhere we use EC, we'll be using expected conditions. So now that has been done, so the next thing that we need is we need the select. So we say from selenium dot webdriver dot support dot, you can use either UI or you can use select, either one would work. You can use select to import select, or you can use UI. So in some cases you might see people use UI, you might see people use select, but let's just simply select. Let's with UI. UI is shorter to write, so import select. Right. So lastly, we need the WebDriver weight. So from selenium dot WebDriver dot support, I think, yeah, weight, yeah, we import the WebDriver weight. So now that we have everything that we need, before we move further, let's first drag this down and let us instantiate those things that we need. So we say this for actions, we can say action equals action chains and driver. Now, what this actually means is this: you don't need to cram this, just understand what is going on here. See, the action chains class actually needs the driver class. How does it need it? You see, the action chain class, like I explained earlier, needs to perform some real events, but it needs the driver class to have found the element on which it has to perform those real events. So it has to inherit the class so it can extend its own abilities on that class. I hope that makes sense. So that's why it is done this way. Then the WebDriver weight, we will do it this way. We'll say weight equals WebDriver weight. Just the same way, it needs that driver class, but it needs that driver class to be able to extend its capability to wait, let's say for 10 seconds. So it can wait for 10 seconds. So it doesn't mean that the WebDriver class will be waiting for 10 seconds at all times. No, it won't be waiting for 10 seconds at all times. What it will be doing is it will wait for 10 seconds maximum, but within that 10 seconds, it begins to search for it begins to wait for the expected condition to happen. Once the expected condition happens, it just goes on. So let's say it's supposed to wait for 10 seconds like we've added here, and the expected condition happens on the second happens after 2 seconds. It means that the action continues, everything just continues that way. So if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please watch the video again and let me quickly repeat that. WebDriver wait does not mean that it will allow the WebDriver to wait for 10 seconds outrightly. It would wait for the maximum time of 10 seconds, but within that time, it begins to wait for the expected conditions. So it tests the expected conditions repeatedly. So let's say the expected conditions happens after the third second, it moves on. It doesn't wait for the remaining 7, it just continues. So it makes things faster. So that is how that is done. So basically, what we want to do now is we want to come here. Let's start it over again. So we want to over here. So this is an overing action. I want to over here. So we have 2 overing actions. So let's first start it. So in order to do this, let's inspect element. You can right click on the element you want to inspect, then click inspect element, or if you're using a Mac system, you can press options command and I, and it would reveal this to you. Then you can use this place to select it. So we have mens, we have this. Let's use the href. The href is really unique to it. One thing about this site is it does not really have unique elements, so it might be a tad difficult to get elements. So we are using the href here. So while we are using the href, it's also important to tell you that when you're using an href in a real situation, you need to be careful, because if you have different environments and those href has respective URLs pointing to the specific environment, your test might start failing. What I'm trying to say here essentially is always try to look for an element that is unique to what you want to do. So let's create a mens tab. let's create a variable called main star. Now, why do we need the variable? We need the variable to store what we are looking for. Driver dot find element. We are looking for this element itself, so that when we have it in the variable, we can give that variable to the action class to work on, to perform the event. So we found the element, so we use the by identifier, we use this by selector, and we do this. Now wait, we need to put it in a square bracket. If we don't put it in a square bracket, when you have something that has an equal to sign in your element, put it in a square bracket, else it will be deemed an unfit, an irregular element identifier. As you can see, there's an error here. You can eliminate this error by putting an escape sequence, a backspace on the inner quotes, or you could just change what is outside. You could change the outer quote to a single quote, or you change the inner quote to a single quote. So whichever one works for you. So let me just keep it this way and change the outer quote to a single quote. So moving on, I'll just be able to easily do that. So the next thing that we want to do now is actually perform the overing. So in order to perform the overing, I call the action class that I've instantiated. So action dot, we have to move to the element. So we move to that element. What element are we moving to? The main tab that has been identified. And all we just need to do is just move to it and perform that, and it would over that. So we can copy this, because remember that the next step is also similar. We are hovering over main to get a drop down, and we are hovering over tops to get another drop down. So let's quickly do that. Let's copy and we paste it, and we just need to change is all we need to change here is this top, and change this to top. So then we need to now change the CSS selector identifier. So let's go here. Inside this, we have this. In order to get this, we need this, but it might disappear. But luckily for us, the way it has been created, we can see it here. It is not also disappearing inside the element, so we can identify it, and I'll show you now. So in this list, we have this href. As you can see, it stops. So if you see it stops. So it means we are identifying it right now. But in a case where you cannot see this and it disappears, what you would do is on the parent element, which was this mains, we would right click and we create a break for the subtree modification and attribute tree modification, such that if anything appears, that thing will freeze. It will be able to freeze. So if all those elements appears like that, you will be able to freeze it and use it. But that's not the case here, so let us move on. So the element that we need right now is this. So again, we'll use the href, because the href is still unique and it's easy. So so here, all we just need to change is everything inside this square box. We change it, and we have identified it. So finally here, what we need to do is click hoodies and pants. So we can still identify it from here, so we don't need to worry. So we have a list inside this, and the first list is jackets, right? That's jacket. So the second one is hoodies, right? Yeah, so this is it. So we can still use the href. So we copy this and we get into our code. And we just do driver dot find element. This time around, we don't need to assign it to a variable, because we can click directly on it. So a single quote, square bracket, paste this in, close the square bracket, and click it. So with this, let's test it and see what we've done. Yeah, so it works. As you can see, it returned an exit 0. So let us move on into the next thing that we said we are going to do in this part. So in this part, we are going to select this, and return 36, right? So in order to do this, we need to be able to identify these elements uniquely, right? So let us try to identify it uniquely. So we have this. It has an ID called limiter. So if we try to use that ID, let's find it if it is unique to it. The ID is limiter, so we say limiter, but it returned 2 for us. So in the other videos that I've discussed, there are some helpers that you can use to identify elements like Ranorex velocity, grow path, selectors orb, and the likes. So many people have so many ones, several ones, but I will use Ranorex velocity in this case. So I will just do this. So I will copy this. This is CSS there, so that's what I will use to make things fast because we really have a long way to go. So then once that has been done, we need to select that, right? So what we first need to do is we need to create a variable. Let's say page view. Let's create a variable called page view, and we'll find that page view. So we say driver dot find element by CSS selector, and what do we find it by? By this. Now, before we move any further, remember I said something that it is possible for us to click on the next thing, and when we click on it, we might not be able to locate it because maybe we have a slow internet and it did not load on time, and our Selenium script is very fast and it has gone through. So let us use the wait to make sure that we get what we need. So we say wait until an expected condition, like we've given it an alias. An expected condition, maybe the visibility of the element is located, and it is located by what? Is located by a CSS selector. Let's use the tag. We are waiting for the tag to be loaded, so we wait for this. So once we've waited for it, we can now continue. So now that we have this, so let us create a select variable this time. So we can put the selector to work. We can use the select class to identify it. So we say select, we call the select class, but we call the select class not on the driver, but on the element that we've identified, on the selects that we've identified, because the select doesn't work on the driver, it works on the select element itself. It works on the element that has the select tag. That's what it interacts with. So you unlike action chains that works with the driver, the select works with the element that needs to be identified. So now that we have select, so you can say select by let's say value, because you can select by 3 things. You can select by either value, by visible text, or by index. So let's say we select by value, right? And we put that there like this, 36. So let's see if it runs for us now. Oh, it worked. So it has selected 36. It has loaded 36 for us. So that ends this particular one. But for bonus, if we've not spent too much time, we can decide to first scroll down to that page to see what is actually going on. So it's possible for us to scroll, and we can, as you can see, in the page, it's actually the bottom of the page. So we can actually scroll down or scroll the element into view. So let's just try to do one of it. So before we get to the select part, we could come here. We could come here and probably just select, probably just scroll down. So we can say driver dot. We use a JavaScript executor called execute script, and in that we can say window dot window dot scroll to, and you scroll to 0. I think what content body, you scroll to the body dot content dot document height. I think this is just too long. I'm not sure if I got it right, but let's try it and see if it scrolls down. If it doesn't scroll down, we'll just Google the right way to do it, because it's not something you need to memorize, but you once you know what you need to do, Google is always there. Oh yeah, it is wrong. So let's see how to get this right. Windows scroll to start with some which report is it. Maybe let's see if this would work. But if it doesn't work, we will just get it out. So probably in the next video, I will just find the solution. I will Google it on the next video and I'll put it there. So let me comment this out so we can correct that in the next video and try it. But it's a good thing, and you might probably have probably a technical interview, a technical assessment, and one of the things that you were told to do is to scroll down or to scroll to an element. So in the next video, before we continue to select an item, we will try to scroll down or scroll it into view. So let's try it one more time without the scroll and see that it still works. Then we'll meet in the next video. So let's see that. Yes, it still works. So we've gotten this far. So in the next video, we will fix that and we will continue. Thank you for getting this far. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.